So you're interested in high-grade premium audiophile type sound. Well, you've come to the right show. Today on CMA Connected, we've got our special friend Nick Wingate of Ground Zero USA coming on, and we are totally going to geek out and break out for y'all all the different series, products, and overall layout of the different offering that Ground Zero has for you premium listeners out there. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM, all about Ground Zero. And it starts now. What's going on, guys, and welcome to another CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and you are tuned into CMA Networks, where we talk mobile electronics day in and day out. This time of year, I get to have a little bit of fun because we get to really geek out about what I love most, and that is, of course, high-end car audio sound. You know, many of us have been investing, being a part of the hobby, tried out all different kinds of configurations to try to get to that point where we are satisfied with the sound system that we have in our vehicle. And today we have a special guest because this gentleman here, he's been doing it a long time. And we're really going to try to crack the code and get a little bit of knowledge out of Nick Wingate. So Nick, welcome to the show. Why don't you give us a brief overview of what our conversation will be like today?
Well, thank you very much, man. Do we ever really get satisfied with the system we have? I mean, do you really? I mean, I just listened to you say that. And I'm like, I'm not sure we all ever get there, but you know what? We got some stuff to talk about that may help people get, maybe just maybe get there. Especially when it comes to the ultra high end. Speaking of the ultra high end, the ultra amplifiers and the ultra speakers, absolutely. But it's going to be a fun time, Ben. I'm looking forward to spend a little time with you today.
Well, Nick, I guess I have to sort of agree with you there, but I think that's what makes it fun, and that's what it's all about. So, all right, real quick, an opportunity for our partner, SiriusXM, to remind you why it's always an amazing attachment sale. And when we come back, let's talk about audiophile grade sound with Nick Wingate from Ground Zero. We'll see you after the break.
Hey, Paul here with SiriusXM, and I'd like to talk to you about attachment selling and why the SiriusXM product is one of the best things to add, especially since we don't trade dollars with any other category. I could go through all of this, but let's hear what some of our dealers have to say.
It's an easy add-on that takes, 10, 15 minutes if we're running an antenna, 1 minute if we've got an adapter to plug it into the factory SiriusXM antenna, and it's extra money, so no brainer.
I present it to every customer because a lot of customers don't know what all they can do with Sirius. They don't know what all content they could have. It just makes too much sense not to sell it.
It creates a different customer loyalty and customer security when you explain to them why it's a better experience. Just gets them back in the door. And then the next car, they're already asking for it again. So it just keeps selling itself. It makes more sense.
Well, there you have it. You heard from our dealers. Just remember some of the best practices. Make sure you have one on display so you can demo it. Make sure you're taking advantage of our rewards program, because if you're not taking advantage of that, you're leaving even more money on the table. Make sure you got our POP up on display. And other than that, just make sure you're recommending it.
Mr. Nick Wingate, welcome to the show, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're going to stay with us. This is going to be a fun conversation, as it always is. Now, Nick, you are now at Ground Zero. We've had the opportunity to speak on several occasions now. What is it about that search, that hunt, that desire to continuously try to improve and change and modify that sound system to get that sound you're looking for? I mean, is that even a realistic goal in your mind?
Probably not. Just to be honest about it, probably not. But it sure is a hell of a lot of fun trying to get there. And we've all forgotten. I think we've forgotten. This is supposed to be fun, and enjoying the music. That's what we do. All this crazy thing we call 12-volt car audio. I mean, that's the reason we try and achieve it. Is to put a smile on my face, yours, or whoever is purchasing the equipment. But there's a reason why we try and get there. And I think it has to do a lot with it being just a hobby.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And you know what makes it interesting is if you take a look back at the last decade, 2 decades, I mean, things have changed, right? I mean, new resources, new materials, new technologies, and that keeps the target continuously moving, because what you might have thought was perfection a decade ago has maybe drastically changed based on what's available in the market today. So, and I want to preface this conversation. When we're talking audiophile sound, I want to be clear. This is truly something that is in the eye of the beholder. We all have different tastes. We all like different kinds of music. We all enjoy the music in different ways. Some of us will maybe sneak out to the car after dinner and just listen to music in their car for 2 hours. Others enjoy it in traffic. Others like to go compete, such as yourselves and other friends that we have. The point is here, it doesn't matter how you enjoy it. The point is that you take the time to enjoy it. So what we're going to be talking about today is the breakout of different components that Ground Zero offers that could help you achieve that goal. Okay, that's the goal. All right. And when it comes to Ground Zero, Nick, I don't like doing this good, better, best scenario thing, because what I've come to learn, it's not about that. It's about what it is you're looking for. We're going to try to cover a couple different scenarios and budgets at the same time that'll inspire people to maybe, go out there and upgrade their system. So let's start with one that I've seen and I've personally had, and I know you have as well, experienced a lot of. Ground Zero has done a really good job with their demo vehicles at shows. So I've had the chance to sit in several vehicles that have uranium product in it. And I think it's a lot of people online talk about it. So I'd like to hear your take on why somebody would want to consider the uranium product line.
Well, I think first of all, for me, having experience with the uranium, to start with the uranium amplifiers, dollar for dollar, and we have to, and I'm going to include the pricing, dollar for dollar. I'm not sure there's a better amplifier made. And I mean this in all sincerity. I had an opportunity last week to spend the better part of 4 days either tuning or listening to a vehicle at Iosca Finals that had, 4 uranium amplifiers. It had 2 4-channels and 2 2-channels. And it was powering plutonium speakers and plutonium subwoofers. And the amount of fidelity that came out of that system was just extraordinary. I had numerous friends of mine who have been involved in this industry for years and years, who were on the home audiophile side as well as the car audiophile side. And they all told me the same thing, that the level of dynamic range, whether it's micro or macro, was simply stunning. And they could not believe that uranium amplifiers were producing this. Yeah, we can change the bias and go from class A to class AB. Yes, we can do that. And they are class AB amplifiers with a little biasing towards class A that can occur. But when it comes to just dollar for dollar, power for power, and the ability to recreate a sound stage, it is extremely impressive what uranium amplifiers can do. And I think it can be said the same for the speakers. Dollar for dollar, they are extremely neutral. They are extremely revealing. And when, people always ask me, well, Nick, what the heck do you mean by neutral? Well, when you listen to some speakers out there, and I'm not going to name names, but every one of them has a unique sound. Some of them like to play rap or hip hop or techno, or some like to listen to speed metal. Some like jazz or classical music. There are some speakers, and there's more than one manufacturer out there that builds this, that they lean heavily towards one genre of music or the other. Well, uranium doesn't do that. Uranium plays everything equally well. And I think that's what makes this line so unique, is that it doesn't matter what you throw at it. It plays it extremely well. Again, I come back to the dollar amount, the value. It's a tremendous value. And that's what makes uranium so unique in our industry right now.
So one question that we get a lot in our comments whenever we talk about Ground Zero is it a no-no or a faux pas to start mixing between different series? Now, I noticed that you mentioned that uranium amplifiers probably pair superbly well with, uranium speakers, for example. Uranium also makes some subwoofers, but plutonium subs are super popular. So what's your take on that real quick before we continue?
Well, I think it depends on, number one, your taste in music. You know what you like. I think it also depends upon dollar value. Do you see the value in it? If you see the value of, let's just say, having a plutonium sub on a uranium amplifier versus a uranium sub on a uranium amplifier, and you want to pay for the sure, there's no reason not to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. I like that. So very a la carte. Everything we're
Yeah.
talking about. Okay.
Yeah,
Very cool.
absolutely.
Now, uranium, I think we can build that. If I had to put a sticker or a post-it note, value. I think that's the big takeaway. You're not going to get
Yeah.
a better output, result for the dollar you're going to spend if you're going with a uranium route. Okay, so now let's look at plutonium. This is again another series that I've had the chance to listen to as well.
Mhm.
Very refined, but at the same time, very strong output. That's what I got out of it. But I'd like to
Yes.
hear in your words, why would somebody veer towards plutonium? Obviously, it's a little bit more expensive for sure, but characteristic wise.
Well, from again, let's start with the plutonium amplifiers. Different design than uranium. They still have the bias chain circuit where you can go from class A back to class AB. But it's a different design. It also has a different sound, and I think it has a higher refined definition as far as the sound stage is concerned. They are wide. They will throw a wider sound stage, a deeper sound stage, more three dimensionality of imaging of instruments or people singing. That's what I find that is the big difference. Power wise, I think they virtually sound alike as far as the amount of power they can produce. But I think those amplifiers they produce it a little more seamlessly, a little easier. It sounds like they're not having to work as hard. And I think that complements the plutonium speakers quite well because it basically is the exact same thing. The plutonium speakers, yeah, they're going to give you everything uranium does, but it's going to give it to you in spades. There's more of it. There's a higher level of fidelity because of the way that the drivers are built. The cones are stiffer and lighter. The voice coils, are designed differently. There are aspects of that line of speakers that is designed to give you a higher level of fidelity. You can hear more into the instruments being played, or somebody singing. You can hear somebody's diaphragm in their chest. Or let's say you're listening to somebody play the drums, you can hear the strike of the drumstick on the snare drum, and you know that that's a wooden stick versus a metal stick. That's what plutonium is. Yeah, and it does get it. It is dynamic. It is powerful. It is all of that. But it is also extremely revealing, and that's what plutonium is. For me.
Now, one question I had when it came to the plutonium line is something that you'll notice if you go to the website, groundzerousa.com, if you're curious, is that when it comes to the plutonium subwoofer range, it's quite diverse as to what type of subwoofer you might want to match to your plutonium system. This
Mhm.
is also a very award-winning line. Like the 4-channel amplifiers won awards, and most recently the GZPW10SQX, which is where they're dubbing their SQ sub, also won an ACE award. So just talk to us
Yes.
real quick about these subwoofers and why there's such a difference in offering when it comes to which type of sub you might want.
Well, obviously, we're talking to different types of music, genre of music. Whether you're listening to rap and hip hop, techno, you're going to want something that's close to the club. There's a subwoofer in the line for you there. The subwoofer you just mentioned, the SQX subwoofer. I had an opportunity to spend 4 days with a gentleman who had two of them in his truck, and the level of fidelity is extraordinary. There's a reason it won that award. Um, 1.3 cubic feet sealed in each one. We had 600 or 800 watts on each one. 20 hertz was easy. Now, I'm 20 hertz is not easy to get, folks. I'm going to be honest with you. With the level of control and the level of fidelity, because we were listening to a pipe organ that has a 20 hertz and a 16 hertz rank in it. And when a subwoofer slash amplifier loses control, especially we're talking levels that it's having a difficult time reproducing, like 115 dB at 20 hertz. If the subwoofer falls apart, loses control, the soundstage collapses, and it sounds just terrible. Well, we were sitting there just laughing because the soundstage stayed where it was. We're playing 1620 hertz, and it's out on the hood of the truck.
Beautiful.
That said an awful lot to me about the level of fidelity that this subwoofer is capable of doing. And I think it's a testimony to the technology that the company's developed over the years, that, they decided to develop this subwoofer specifically, to handle this type of situation. We know, Ben, you and I both know there's a lot of different product out there that says, oh, we can do this and we can do that and we can do all of it. No, you can't. Sometimes you have to have subs and drivers specifically designed for specific needs. And I think the subs in this line can meet a number of different needs depending on what that need may be for that person.
Very well. And I think that theme segues us perfectly to our next two, I'm going to say, ultra elite items here. So the next one, guys, if you're paying attention, if you're still with us, reference has always been a part of the catalog. It's always been that upper echelon, of course, until Ultra came out. We're going to get to Ultra in a second. But there's some new reference goodies on the horizon. I don't even know if you can talk about them yet, but I'm going to try because that's what I do. I ask the questions. Reference series, when it comes to Ground Zero, is top of the line. It's the pinnacle of what you can get. What can you tell us about the new reference speakers, which they are sort of rumbling about online right now?
There's going to be 3 speakers available. There will be an inverted dome tweeter. There will be a 3.5-inch mid-range and a 6.5-inch mid-bass. The technology behind the cones comes from a high-end home audio. Ground Zero is fortunate to where there's a company that's going to allow them to use the technology. It's quite different. When you take it, you get a chance to see the speakers, you're going to go, that's completely different. I've never seen anything like it. I have had the experience of listening to these in a home speaker by the company that is letting us use this, and it is different. The level of fidelity at the price point that these speakers are at is just amazing. A lot of depth, a lot of width, a lot of height. The 3-dimensionality of imaging is just spot on. It's outstanding. The timbre of the speakers is as good as anything I've heard at their price point. They're going to be very efficient from what I understand. They're not going to need a tremendous amount of power to perform well. It is going to be a la carte. You're going to be able to, mix and match 2-way, 3-way, however you want to do it. You will need a DSP processor to be able to make these speakers do what they need to do. I do recommend that in every respect. So they are going to be very different. They are very special. There is a distributor in the Far East that actually has a working set, and they are blown away by how good these speakers sound versus everything else in their store. And when I tell you they sell the high-end, folks, they sell the best of the best. You name it, they sell it. And they are absolutely just amazed by these speakers, and they cannot wait to start selling these in the Far East.
Well, I'm geeking out on this right now because from what I've seen, we have some images here. These look very different. The cone looks incredible. The use of, I think it's neomagnets, maybe it's a mix of both. The tweeter, inverted dome. What is this foam technology surrounding this tweeter? I'm sure you have the answer to this. So what is this?
Well, it's a felt that is cut a certain way. And what happens is it prevents what is known as edge diffraction from taking place. When tweeters play, and other speakers play, but especially tweeters, the frequencies are very, very, very small, and they have a tendency to roll off onto the baffle in which the tweeter's attached to, or the frame that the tweeter's attached to. And what happens is it causes a nasty phase shift to take place. And you can hear it. It sounds like a distortion. Well, this material, because of the way it's applied and cut, is going to eliminate that. And if, we've been talking, you were asking me, well, who does this in home audio? Well,
Yeah.
There's a very, very, very high-end home audio manufacturer based in Utah that does this.
Right. Okay. Does it
Yeah,
start with W?
yes, it does.
Oh, gotcha.
And they've been doing it for a number of years. But as far as I know, I may be wrong, but I don't know of anybody else in car audio that's doing this.
So you see this theme happening here, right, Nick? All these unique things that Ground Zero is willing to go to the lengths to try to be different, elevate
Mm.
the status quo, bring enthusiasts closer to that goal that we've been talking about from the beginning of the show.
Sure.
And just real quick, we have to mention the amplifiers as well. I mean, these are one of the most gorgeous. I love them, and I'm sure you'll agree with. They look perfectly old school. You know what I
Mhm.
mean by that? I mean, they look
Yeah.
like I want an amplifier to. They're not small. They make
No.
no. You know what I mean? This is not for the compact under the seat kind of system. No, they don't care.
No.
They have built this because they know guys like you and me want machine cut, big ass surfboard, beautiful amplifiers. So
Yeah.
just want to comment
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're talking no holds barred,
That's
this is
it.
the only way to build it.
Well, no holds barred. Let's stay on that theme for a second because we've saved the last one here. This is going to be interesting. So when I first heard that Ground Zero is going to drop a new amp, now Ground Zero, as you guys know, is based in Germany. So much of their higher end stuff is actually made in Germany, which is great. But this new amplifier came out, I can't remember when, but not too long ago. And it was called the Ultra. Not only did it not look like anything in the entire lineup from just aesthetically,
Mm-hmm.
when I saw the insides, I didn't even make sense of it. Like, how could they be charging this kind of money? It looks totally different from what I'm used to. And then I noticed that it was only available in 2-channel. And then what's more, it was made in the UK of all places.
Yeah.
Mr. Wingate, please shed some light on Ultra for us.
Well, the story behind Ultra is very simple. When they decided to do this, the budget was thrown out the window. There was no budget. They basically approached the dean of car audio amplifiers in the UK, yeah, Mr. Gordon Taylor, and basically said, "Here's a blank check. Build the best. Build whatever you want, however you want to do it. Use the best." And okay. And Gordon was like, "You sure you want to do this?" Like, absolutely. And so he did. And that's how these amplifiers came about. It really is it's a no holds barred amp in every respect. We're talking hand built, handcrafted. Literally completely different design, extreme high end parts. So, and when you have the ability to build a design that you maybe been thinking about for years, but because it was limited in production because of part availability, your constraints as far as pricing, because you had to hit a price point, you know, you had to. But when you're given the blank check and say, "Here, go build whatever you have wanted to build for the last, 15, 20 years, this is it." And it sounds like it. It doesn't sound like anything in car audio I have ever heard. It sounds like, honest to gosh, it sounds like tubes in somebody's home system. When I turn the amplifier and I set the bias to high, it literally sounds like, somebody's playing a high-end tube amplifier in a home audio system. That's what it reminds me of.
Okay, Nick, you said a lot there, so I'm going to just review for those of you guys that are tuning in. You mentioned premium components. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I don't even know what any of this means, but I know it's important. So I'm going to just list off a couple of cool things. Number one, we're talking about Swiss handmade Elma selector switches. We've got Mundorf audio capacitors. We have an isolated power supply. This is a cool fact. It's a 2-channel, but it's actually built like 2 monos. So it's dual mono topology. And get this, it's ready for liquid cooling. I mean, my kids' computers have liquid cooling, but I've never seen a car amplifier that could take liquid cooling, which is another wow factor. But all this is for you geeks out there like me, but you can take your time and Google whatever those things mean. Here's what I want to know, Nick. Sum it up for me. I'm the guy that wants the best. a plethora of systems in my quote unquote car audio career or hobby. Sum this up for me in an experience so that people can understand if you're going to spend this kind of money and want the best, what are you getting?
Emotion. It's an emotional response to the music. And that's not easy to do in car audio. When you have product such as the Ultra speakers and the Ultra amplifier that allows you to literally experience the emotions that the artist or artists are trying to convey to you with whatever they're doing. That's not easy to do. That takes a higher level of technology, a higher level of fidelity in order to achieve it. You've got to spend some money. In the high-end home audio world, you've got to spend some money. In car audio, you're going to spend some money. But if that's what you're after, if you're looking for the absolute best, that you're going to be able to literally understand what somebody is trying to convey in telling a song, singing a song or telling a story. That's what this is it. The best way I can describe this is if anybody's ever heard Johnny Cash sing Hurt and it doesn't make you want to cry, go listen to it on one of these systems. Go listen to him sing this on an Ultra system. It will bring you to tears. Literally, the first time I heard it on one of these systems, the hair stood up on the back of my neck. I don't have any on my head, but I do on the back of my neck. On the hair stood up on my arms, and I literally was just mesmerized because I'd never heard what Johnny was putting into it until I listened to these speakers in a car. In a home, yeah, I heard it in home audio. Not often, but I have heard it in home audio. But there's only one system I've ever heard that level of fidelity, that the transfer of the emotion that Johnny was singing to all of us. Yeah. The man knew he was dying, and you could tell and you could hear it. And it literally left an impression upon me. And this equipment leaves that impression upon you. It's the best way I can describe it, Ben.
And that was Nick Wingate of Ground Zero sharing with us some deep thought, some insight, some reviews, and just general information about some of the gear that Ground Zero is putting out for you guys today to enjoy and to build that system of your dreams, whatever that target may be. Now, if you want more information on any of the products covered on today's show, I do encourage you to head over to the website, groundzerousa.com. Now, my takeaway is simple. There's a lot of great car audio gear. Heck, we cover that all the time here on CMA Networks. But one thing that the Ground Zero brand seems to do that really goes above and beyond many of the other brands out there is to really try to put out game changers with everything they do. They have different different products at different price points. But if you're looking at the audiophile sessions, and that's why you're here today, I'm going to be hard pressed to point you in other directions when it comes to looking for stuff at this level. The components, the design, the technology, the heritage, where it's made, how it's made, the configuration, the matching of the components, the technologies, the features, the materials. I can go on and on. In fact, we probably ran long on this show only because there's that much to talk about. So please take a look at the website, dive a little bit deeper, but more importantly, try to find an opportunity to listen to it for yourself and see if the hair on the back of your head also gets perked up just like Nick's. And that's it for the CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.